Hey everybody, welcome. This is the Commotion. I am Roshan Joshi, and I'm here with Dan Smith. And today, we're going to be doing the UFC 249 review. So looking forward to that. How you doing, Dan?
I'm doing fantastic, man. How you doing?
Doing well, man. Happy to have you here with us today.
I appreciate the invite to come on and talk about some UFC and people getting punched in the face.
Love it. And guys, if you like our content, make sure you hit that like button. And if you want to see more stuff like this, make sure you smash that subscribe button for more content that'll be headed your way. And any of the music that you like or that you see in the videos that we have, Be the Human, his link is in the description below. Definitely check him out. He is awesome. All right, so this was a nice weekend, man. We finally had some sports back on.
Something to watch. I mean, it's just been an absolute drag since the draft till now. So, and then we get UFC again on Wednesday, which is cool.
Yo, Dana White, shout out to Dana White. Good job, man, getting it going,
Fight Island. I want to see Fight Island, bro.
Get some Mortal Kombat going on.
Kumite stuff.
Love it. Love it. A little bit of blood sport.
That's it.
Awesome. Yeah, so we actually had some awesome fights that came up this weekend. So a couple of really good bangers. So we're going to start right off. We're going to hit the VICENTE LUQUE versus NIKO Pierce fight. So that was a welterweight fight at 170.
Yeah. I thought it was a really good matchup. I've seen LUQUE fight before. I have not seen Price fight before. And that dude has a chin.
Oh man,
that dude has a chin.
Dude was a banger for sure. Like you saw that LUQUE did have technique when it came down to their rounds, but NIKO Price had a lot of heart, and he was taking a lot of big shots that were hitting.
Yeah. I mean, they were pretty even on the scorecard in terms of, you know, significant strikes and things like that. You know, they both worked the legs a little bit, but I mean, a lot of that damage came from a lot of head strikes. And at the end of the day, you know, the face can only take but so much. Very true.
Very true. And you saw, like, in the beginning or the first round, it was a very technical fight. The guys were fighting at a good pace, a very high octane pace, which is something that we all love to see. But there was a lot of good technique going on. You would see LUQUE with those good leg kicks right off the bat. But Price was coming right back with those counter punches. And he was working combinations off those counter punches too, which is huge.
Yeah. And you know what's funny is you're going to start seeing a lot more of that, I think, in the UFC as the striking kind of develops and kind of becomes more sophisticated. And you kind of saw that, you know, with the main card with, you know, Ferguson and Justin Gaethje, where these guys are starting to set stuff up a lot more now, these high-level guys. And they're not just throwing random strikes. They're using their legs to set up their hands, or they're using their hands to set up their legs. And I think you're going to start seeing a lot more of that.
Yeah, really mixing it up. I mean, you're getting a lot more guys are using that Muay Thai in there too. We're seeing so many more teeps now. We're seeing so many more checks now.
I mean, how many fights were there in total between all the prelims and the main card? What was it, like 15 some odd fights, 11, 10 fights, something like that?
It was nine fights, not counting the early prelims. So from prelims on, 9 fights.
Yeah, 9 fights plus the 2, so 11 fights. There was legit one grappling match.
Yeah, only one.
Everything else was on the feet. Everything else.
People are banging, man. People are banging out.
And you're talking about, I mean, there's guys included in this. You're talking about CEJUDO, who's a Olympic wrestler, kept it all on the feet, against Dominick Cruz, who's a legit ground guy.
Yeah.
Kept it all on the feet. So, I mean, it was really, really interesting, like you said, to start seeing a lot more of that Muay Thai and stuff being played on the UFC card.
Now you're seeing these high-level guys work that takedown defense a lot more so that they can dictate the fight on the ground or on the stand-up.
Yeah.
So it was good. I mean, that first round was really good with LUQUE and NIKO. LUQUE did end up hurting Price towards the end, but it was a real banger.
Yeah.
They started banging out a little bit more in the second round. Price was fighting good in the early exchanges. had to take a little bit of time for a second low blow that he got. So he got hit with a low blow. The ref actually had to tell LUQUE, hey man, accident or not, no more accidents.
Right, that's two. No more accidents.
Yeah, you're beat at that point. And then Pierce recovered and tried to slip in a couple of roundhouse kicks. But his momentum actually made him slip. So he went and tried to do a big roundhouse kick like right after a clinch. My man slipped and fell right on his back. It happens to the best of us, man.
Well, and that kind of goes back to what I was saying before about just throwing these single strikes, these big haymakers, trying to hit the home run without setting it up. I mean, you and I both know you can see a head kick coming from a mile away if it's not set up. So those things, those to me, those types of strikes just scream desperation.
And and as you said, like we saw it in the Gaethje fight too, where he would set it up with a double jab or a jab into a kick, and that's how you want to do. You want to start setting yourself up for success.
Yeah, but you know what, man? I mean, towards the end of the later rounds, I mean, you get tired, and a lot of it is desperation, especially if you think you're behind on the cards, and you just start looking for that home run knockout. And sometimes guys do stuff like that. You know, it's heat of the battle type stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And towards the end of this one, like you saw that they were gassing a little bit towards the end of the second round. Third round, they both came out looking pretty good. NIKO Price was actually looking really good.
He looked really fresh. He looked really fresh in that third round. He did. He
came out looking really good. But in the end, I think LUQUE dropped him, got on top with a nice big hammer fist, and got some blood time going, and the ref had to just stop the fight right then and there. So he wasn't knocked out, but it was TKO.
I believe it was a lead hook, right, that caught him?
Yep.
Yeah, it was a lead hook that caught him, and I mean, that thing just hit flush. And, like Connor says, practice and precision.
It was the overhand left. Yep.
Yeah,
exactly.
And I mean, that just, man, that was a clean shot. And those are hard to take.
Oh, yeah.
So
no doubt. But that fight was a banger. These guys are trading shots. They really put it all right out there on the line. So that was for me one of the more exciting fights of the day, honestly.
And that's what you need to do when you're fighting on a prelim.
For sure, because you want to be able to be seen by the public. You want to be able to be seen by the commissioner. You want to be able to have more fights so you can lead up to that title fight.
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, and I'm nobody, but in my opinion, you're almost looking for more of a showmanship than the win-loss. I mean, the win is nice, the W is nice, but on a prelim, you just want people talking about your name, and that's how you start getting on main cards, And I think both these guys did that.
That's exactly what Connor did. He built up his notoriety over his preliminary
he was exciting
fights.
to watch. And, you look at guys like Diego Sanchez. Diego Sanchez was never really in contention to win anything, but he had a very long career, and he was always exciting to watch.
He was a blast.
You knew you were going to get a fight. Chris Lieben was the same thing. You remember Chris Lieben?
Yeah.
He was the same thing, man. Like, at no point was he ever going to challenge for a belt or anything like that. But you knew you were going to get some fireworks if Chris Lieben was in the ring.
Outlaw. When Outlaw would be fighting, you're not expecting the dude to hit a belt, but god dang, when he's coming out there hot.
You're in for a fight.
Yes, sir. So that's actually a good transition to one of the slower fights that was on the next card, which was CARLA ESPARZA. ESPARZA. Thank you for the correction. So CARLA ESPARZA versus Michelle Waterson, the karate hottie. And CARLA won that by a split decision. It was honestly, I was watching that fight. That was a strawweight fight, 115 pound. And that was the ladies having a round. I'm actually a big Michelle Waterson fan. I like her a lot. I think she's really gritty. She's really competitive. She likes to throw a lot of good kicks. But in the beginning of this fight, they were really feeling each other out in that first round. They weren't really like engaging too much. Waterson was throwing some combos, but they weren't really hitting. CARLA was actually just kind of diving right into there and trying to take the fight to her.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a pretty strong height difference between those two, I believe.
Huge.
And Esparza has a wrestling background that Waterson does not have. So Esparza is trying to negate the striking because that's what Michelle Waterson's known for. She's known for her striking.
Mm-hmm.
So she's trying to, close that range and get in close and take her down with wrestling. And, Waterson, to kind of to your point before, she's really worked on her takedown defense and stopped a lot of those shots. Esparza also wasn't setting anything up. She was taking a shot from a mile away, which again is pretty easy to diagnose. But yeah, I mean, I think these are two girls that they're just never really going to contend for anything. They're both, I mean, Waterson's had a very nice career. Esparza, I believe, is a little bit younger. And she's having a pretty strong career, solid career too. The problem is I don't think either of them have developed themselves as mixed martial artists. When Michelle Waterson gets in the ring, you know exactly what she's going to do.
Yeah, she's gonna start throwing out big kicks. She's gonna hit that square stance. She's gonna do that real karate-like foundation.
Exactly. And, she throws that stupid jab from 4 feet away.
Mm-hmm.
And she, it's all to set up that sidekick, that straight karate sidekick, and it's just like, that's just not an effective style. I feel like she's never evolved or developed herself as a fighter. And I don't know if it's just, she doesn't want to, or her, whoever she's training.
Her coaching.
With. Yeah, the coach. I don't know what it is, but it's been the same fighter for as long as I can remember her fighting now. So.
And you can't really expect to grow when you're having these matches that are not busy fights. Like,
right.
If you guys are staying at arm's length away from each other for most of it, and then they're just short bursts of in the pocket for like about a second and then a disengage, it's not much of a fight. So I think the main reason why I mean, on the scorecard, I was a little thrown off as well. I could see why CARLA won, and I guess that's the reasoning behind that is the multiple takedown attempts that she was trying to pass through, and maybe she got maybe 1 or 2 cleaner shots in. It was a really tight one.
She had 10 takedown attempts.
Yeah.
She had 10. I mean, she only got 1 of them. But
I was just about to say most of them got stuffed, but
yeah. Well, I mean, it goes back to Waterson having that, pretty solid takedown defense, and again, Esparza not setting the defense up, and especially when Waterson was going into that southpaw, you can't go for a double leg when she's in the southpaw. It's that back leg now is her dominant leg, and it's just too strong, and the stance is too square, like you said. So, a lot of it was just, in my opinion, just ill-timed with the shots.
And it's a matter of, as you were saying earlier, to your point, guys, you got to start mixing it up a little bit, man. When you're starting to become so predictable,
right?
It's you're never gonna benefit.
Yeah,
but
we got one overhand right on one of those shots, she might have ended the fight.
Agreed. And there were multiple moments within that fight where they just did not capitalize on a good situation.
Right.
But at least we got to watch something with it.
Yeah.
And Waterson was a little shocked towards the end that she didn't win, but you kind of see it on her face. But as I said before, when you're not having a busy fight and you're gonna leave it to the judges, expect anything.
I'm sorry, but I think activity matters, and I think these judges look for activity. And if you're not giving it to them, I can't see how you can expect to win a fight if you're not being active. Absolutely.
If your punch count's extremely low, you're not going to be landing as many punches.
Right.
What it comes down to.
Right.
So the next fight on the card was an extremely exciting fight for me. Probably one of your preferred weight classes, which is the heavyweight class. It was OLEINIK versus WERDUM.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a fun one, man. That was a good one to watch.
I mean, some old dudes getting in there and getting some leather. I think they're both like 42, 43, something like that.
Yeah, man. Yeah, WERDUM been fighting. He was fighting for a while. I'm pretty sure he was a contender for the belt at one point, right?
He was a champ.
He was a champion. There we go.
I think he beat Dos Santos.
Okay, yep, a couple years back.
I think he beat Junior for the belt.
He was so OLEINIK was throwing some great combos though at WERDUM, like right off the bat. OLEINIK
actually dropped a lot of weight for this fight. He dropped almost 20 pounds for this
Oh,
fight.
really? I didn't know this.
Yeah, he dropped a lot of weight, and it actually showed in the first round because his volume was.
He was looking good, man.
Never seen volume like that from him before, and it actually might have worked against him. I know he ended up winning the fight, but it might have worked against him because he was gassed in round 3.
Yeah.
But,
That first round though, he was throwing bombs.
Yeah.
He was dominating with combos, and the only time that I saw Verdum have an edge of any sort was when they were in the clinch. So
Yeah.
Verdum definitely had much more control and much more technique when it came to that clinch, that Muay Thai clinch. He was throwing big knees, but that was the only game that I saw that he had.
do you have their weights? Do we have where they weighed in at?
Well, they were both. I didn't write heavy. I didn't write him for heavy because they have that 265 cap. Yeah.
I want to say that Verdum was had 15, 20 pounds on Olenek.
I wouldn't even be surprised.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of those things that heavyweight's so interesting because you can have a guy weighing 230 pounds versus a guy that's weighing 265 pounds, right on the cap.
Absolutely.
So Verdum was actually, he got a big cut under his eye right in round 1, which Olenek started capitalizing on.
Well, the volume was, it's such in favor of Olenek. It was crazy. He threw, I think he landed 149 total strikes to Verdum's 70.
Jeez, man.
So he doubled up strikes landed on Verdum. So volume was nuts.
And the only time that you saw when you saw advancement from Verdum or when he was in a dominant position was when either he was in the clinch or in round 3 when he was when he had a big early takedown in the beginning of the round, and then
I think that was more from Olenek being tired.
Yeah, but he was rocking that top control
Yeah.
very well. And then he tried to go for an armbar, I believe, and that's when Olenek just slipped out, and it was a wrap from there.
He had him in a pretty nasty Kimura, and then he actually ended up extending it into almost a reverse armbar type thing, where his Verdum's forearm was applying the pressure upwards on Olenek's elbow.
Jeez.
So yeah, it was like a reverse armbar that Olenek ended up bailing out of. So
yeah, it was a good fight. So it ended up being a split decision. Olenek did end up winning that one. But I loved it. I loved seeing the strength and weaknesses of these fighters as well, because you really do see it on display.
Yeah, well, one thing I'll say about Verdum, man, is, in that first round, he looked old and he looked tired.
Yeah.
And he was slow, and
he didn't want to be there.
Yeah, thank God he still has a chin, because he weathered some storms in a big way that actually just, he kind of rope-a-doped. And I don't think it was intentional. I just think that's kind of how it happened, is that he ended up, just kind of outlasting the barrage and then using his weight to, try and control the fight and whatnot. So,
yeah. I always love watching those big guys scrap, man.
Yeah, but I think they got the decision right, in my opinion.
Yeah, me too, honestly. And as you said, it's the busier guy.
Yeah.
How can you expect to win a fight if you're not the busier guy?
You're just taking punishment.
Two busy guys that were going at it were Anthony Showtime Pettis and Donald Cowboy Cerrone. Two guys that I love.
Yeah.
So these guys were fighting at welterweight at 171 pounds. It was a good fight.
It was a great fight. And you could definitely tell that Cowboy had a little bit of a chip on his shoulder coming into
after that McGregor fight, absolutely.
Yeah. And listen, I love both these guys. I don't think you can be a fan of mixed martial arts, specifically the UFC, and not love both these guys. Cowboy, to me, he's my favorite fighter in the UFC. You and I have had this conversation privately a bunch of times, and Cowboy is my dude, man. I still, to this day, I think that Cowboy has the best Muay Thai in UFC, and I will still stand by that.
I can understand why. No, and dude is tough as nails, man.
Yeah, which really goes to show how not to kind of go off on a tangent, but
Yeah, no. This is what we're doing right now.
how good Cowboy is and how easily he was handled by McGregor really shows the level of striking and the cerebral aspect that Conor McGregor brings to the UFC. And I mean, he knows that if he gets into a Muay Thai striking match with Donald Cerrone, that it's not going to go in his favor. Or at least it's going to be a hard-fought battle with a lot of damage. So what are you going to do? You're going to take him by surprise. You're going to do some stuff to him that he's never seen before, and you're going to start slamming. You know, you're going to throw him in a clinch, which Cowboy's used to the clinch.
And you got to slam your shoulder into his face.
So you grab him in the clinch, and you start slamming your shoulder into the bridge of his nose to try and do something not natural that Cowboy hasn't seen before. And it worked, man. I mean, you can't argue with the results. And, you know, it just, like I said, it just goes to show the level that McGregor really is at in terms of his striking and his versatility.
Oh, absolutely. And as you said, very cerebral. That's huge right there. You have to always be conscious when you're fighting. You got to be there. You can't be somewhere else. Yeah.
You know, and again, like to reference back to Conor McGregor, when he dropped Jose Aldo,
mm-hmm.
You know,
within like a second.
Yeah, it was 13. I think it was 13 seconds.
Yeah, man.
And you know, the crazy thing was after that fight, they showed Conor even just backstage warming up, throwing that step back hook, that step back lead hook, throwing it because he knew that he was in Aldo's head. He knew that Aldo was coming full speed. He knew that he was charging. Same thing with Masvidal, Street Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
He practiced that, you know, leaning back on the cage, bouncing, flying, jumping knee. He practiced that. He, you know, that's the cerebral aspect of it, of bringing it, you know, into the cage.
And it's crazy because the layman will think either that's like a puncher's shot or like, oh, you're going wild, but it's like no. It is all a thought process orientation of like, hey man, I know the limits of my body, and also I know what's coming at me.
Right.
Fail to prepare to fail.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's if you think about it, right? What's Ben Askren's big thing? What's he known for?
Oh, grappling.
Wrestling.
Yeah.
Right? Wrestling. So if you force a guy to rely on his instincts, give a split-second decision, what's he going to do? He
went exactly. You hit it right on the head. He went right for the double leg takedown right off the bat.
A wrestler's going to take a shot. If you pound a wrestler, their instinct, they're going to take a shot. So when you come running at him, he's not going to get out of the way. He's not going to drop step. He's not going to shell up. He's not going to try and throw a strike. He's going to take a shot. So what do you do there? You drive your knee right into his neck and the fight, you know?
Loved it.
So back to Cowboy and Showtime. I haven't actually spoken about yet. But.
Love it. Yo, so it was a good fight. They ended up going the distance. I think in round one, you saw Pettis really working the outside well. You saw him kind of using his range, using that outside very well, working off of counters when he could. I know Cowboy had a takedown attempt. But yeah, no, I mean, it was pretty good. Cowboy actually did get a takedown later. I think he caught one of Pettis' roundhouse kicks, two of Pettis' roundhouse kicks, and then got a takedown right off of that. Yeah. So, and then he held top control for a little bit in that first round.
Yeah. Another one, man, that one of the reasons why I love Cowboy, threw 14 leg kicks, landed 13 of them.
Yeah, geez, man. And imagine just getting crushed by those.
As opposed to Pettis throwing 11 and landed 9, which is still, I mean, listen, I don't want to get hit in the leg 9 times, but it just goes to show, number one, the accuracy of throwing the leg kick, you know, the inability of other people to check leg kicks. And listen, checking leg kicks is hard in the UFC because you almost need a little bit of a wider stance to prevent any takedowns. Mm-hmm. You know, you want to have that wider stance to sprawl. If your legs are too tight together, that's when the double leg comes, and now it's impossible to sprawl. But it's just setting up those leg kicks, and Cowboy is awesome at that. He doesn't throw one-offs. He's going to use his hands and then come in and chop that leg. So that's, again, why he's one of my favorite fighters, and just sheer volume that Cowboy was throwing. I mean, he threw 148 total strikes.
Was he the busier guy? Because actually, really, actually. So I guess on first view, Pettis seemed like he was a little bit more of the busier guy throughout the fight.
I mean, listen, it was close. It was close. So Cowboy threw 148 total strikes, landing 62 of them. and then Pettis threw 133 and landed 81.
Oh, okay, I see.
So Pettis landed more of the significant
but
strikes.
They threw around the same volume.
Yeah, Cowboy threw a little bit more.
Okay. No, and it was a great fight. I mean, even towards the beginning of the third round, the pocket exchanges that you saw these guys doing, man, they were getting in the pocket and they were just throwing good combos at each other. They were banging out.
Yeah.
I know that during one of those exchanges, they actually had to stop the fight for a minute because Cowboy got poked in the eye.
It was a bad one too.
It was bad. I saw the replay.
Was it one of them didn't get stopped? Which one didn't get
stopped?
That
was the one. The ref didn't stop that one. So you see Cowboy stop and go, "Yo, my eye."
Yeah.
And the ref was like, "Nope, that was a punch. It was an eye."
Dude, it was full fingers out, and that pinky just caught right into his eye. That was bad. That was bad.
So he was trying to block a punch that was coming in, and then just caught him in the face.
Cowboy came out swinging though. After he realized it wasn't getting stopped, he came out banging.
That was awesome. So as soon as he realized that he got screwed over a little bit, Cowboy, you saw that he got upset. You saw the physical upsetness about it, and he just starts going off. He had a big high head kick, put so much pressure on Pettis. If he fought like that, maybe earlier in the middle of the second round it would have been a wrap.
I tell you what, man, Pettis caught that roundhouse kick to the face too. Oof. Like that hit him in the jaw, and he didn't even waver.
Nah, he ate it.
That was impressive.
So, and you know what else I love? I love what good sports that they were during competition. You saw between hugs, there was between rounds, there was mutual respect. They would give each other a pat or a hug.
Those guys are veterans, and they've known each other for years. And I mean, they're pretty good friends from everything that I've read and seen and whatnot. So, there was actually a picture on Pettis' Instagram where they were both cracking beers at the bar afterwards together. So
I love that.
Yeah, that's the stuff that's the best part of it,
And being in that type of community, I mean, you could take things two ways. You can overplay things and actually start creating real life enemies, or you can understand that the guy in front of you is also in the same exact sport. Yes, have that competitive nature prior, but then also have human respect at the end.
Right. Well, and listen, another guy, I know I kind of went on a diatribe about him earlier, but Conor McGregor, he's notorious. Funny. He's notorious for that. He talks all this shit and he gets it all riled up and this, that, and the other. And then once the fight is over, you saw how he was with Nick Diaz, went over, gave him a hug. Even
with Khabib, even though he went next level and went a little further than he should have. He still,
it's all business? It's all
business? Exactly. He said it's all business. Even with Mayweather, he was trying to,
Listen, Mayweather's we're talking about Mayweather's the king of that.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So
I know this is a fun one. This is one that I was actually really looking forward to. Greg Hardy versus Yorgan De Castro, man. Greg Hardy, get a little bit of NFL in there, baby. I love it.
Say how crazy it is and how stacked this card was that Cowboy Cerrone and Anthony Showtime Pettis were on the prelims.
Insane. Take a moment.
That's how stacked this card was. You have, in my opinion, those two guys are probably UFC Hall of Famers.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no doubt.
You know what I mean?
That Showtime kick is just no matter what. That's always going to be a replay.
Poor BJ
Henderson. Yeah, poor guy.
But, those guys are future Hall of Famers, and they're on the prelims of this card. Like, that is crazy to me. So I don't necessarily know if I agree with putting Greg Hardy and De Castro on the main card and Cerrone and Showtime on the undercard.
On the prelim, yeah.
But I guess I understand it from a business aspect. If you look at the trajectories of the careers, Greg Hardy is definitely trending up, and then the other, Showtime and Cowboy are trending down in their careers. So I guess I see it, but
that's an age thing. It's bound to catch up with you.
Yeah, because listen, they're both Showtime and Cowboy are
top caliber,
light years ahead, mixed martial artists than Greg Hardy and De Castro are. So, but I agree with you. It was definitely more of an age thing than anything else.
Oh yeah. So that Hardy and De Castro fight that went into a decision. That was a heavyweight bout. Super exciting, man. So, like, right in the beginning, you saw De Castro starting to put in some work. Even though he was the smaller guy of the two, you saw that technically sound. He was a little bit more technically sound when it came to, like, he was working and throwing a lot of leg kicks.
Big time.
Big time. You saw the red building up around Hardy's leg.
Yeah.
You know what caught me in round one when I was watching? I saw Greg Hardy throwing head kicks, and I was like, "Jeez, man, these NFL guys are just freak athletes."
That athleticism is a thing. I mean, remember when a dude from the Giants was training at our gym for a hot minute? He played both ways. He was a fullback and he
played both ways.
Tackle. Nikita Whitlock.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, and listen, the guy didn't know anything about striking. He didn't know anything about jiu-jitsu, but just the pure natural athleticism and strength. He was a handful.
Monster. And it's so nice to see this cross-intersect of sports as well.
Yeah.
Like an elite level athlete crossing over to become another elite level athlete.
Yeah, I mean,
haven't seen it since Jordan.
To be in the UFC, man, you have to have skill. I'm not going to sit here. I will never make the claim that Greg Hardy is the most skilled mixed martial artist on the planet. I will not say that, but I'm not going to say that he doesn't have any skill. You know?
Oh yeah,
hell of a lot better than what's that dude that came over from the WWE?
CM Punk. There we go.
Oh God.
Jeez.
And that is an example of somebody having no talent whatsoever.
Taking L's, man. Taking L's.
Big time.
So you see like Castro like doing well like early rounds. He's landing some good combos. I think he actually he rocked Hardy with a punch in round one, but then you start seeing that degradation from round two and round three.
Yeah. Well, the biggest thing was his game plan was leg kicks. That was his game plan, was take away Greg Hardy's legs. And it was absolutely working. It was 1,000% working. And had there been a crowd at that UFC event, that might have been a different...
It does make a difference. It does, absolutely.
Because the biggest thing, and Greg Hardy even said this, was he heard Daniel Cormier as he was commentating on the fight, and he was saying Greg Hardy needs to start checking these leg kicks because his leg is getting chewed up. So at that point, I think De Castro threw 2 or 3 more leg kicks. And at one point, De Castro hit Greg Hardy's knee because Greg Hardy brought his leg up to check it, and his toes cracked against his knee. And I think it broke 1 or 2 of his toes on his foot. And then after that, no more leg kicks. And he didn't have a backup plan to game plan for Greg Hardy. And then at that point, that's where you see that degradation. And he just wasn't able to do anything else to Greg Hardy because his game plan
broke his toes. Yeah. I mean, and you could see it right then and there. Like after that kick, he just pretty much gave up. Like, and you saw it. He was making sure he stayed away. He was laying on his back for a solid amount of time. There was a point in time when Hardy grabbed his leg and just starts punching it, just so that you could add some damage.
Yes.
I think that was in the 3rd round.
Yeah, it was. That was after De Castro's already done. And if you look at it, Greg Hardy threw 135 total strikes.
Jeez.
Landed 66 of them. De Castro threw, in total, 69 strikes. He landed 24 of those.
My Lord.
You want to hear what's even worse? Out of those 24 total strikes, 16 of them were leg kicks.
Jeez, man.
So once the leg kick game plan was gone, fight was over.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, he's throwing he's thrown 8 punches?
Yeah.
That were outside of leg kicks?
Yep, 2 to the body and 6 to the head.
Jeez, man.
Yep. So I think they went the right way with that decision. But again, if there's a crowd there and Greg Hardy can't hear Daniel Cormier and doesn't start checking those kicks, I think that's a different fight. I actually think that fight ends in a TKO because Greg Hardy can't stand on his leg anymore. I
you know what? Watching the first half of that fight, I would have thought the same thing.
Yeah.
And it's funny because you actually even heard the commentators later say, I think in the championship match with Tony, they're like, hey, we should probably be a little bit more quiet because they can hear everything we're saying.
Yeah. Listen, this why it's called mixed martial arts, because to me, that's the Castro's fault. Because, okay, great, you have a game plan A. Awesome. Well, now you don't have that game plan A anymore. So what's your game plan B?
Everybody's got a plan until...
artist. You're not a leg kicker.
Yeah, everybody's got a plan until you got punched in the face. Mike Tyson, you know?
Street poetry. So yeah, I just think that, he's got to... You got to have a plan B. You have to have a plan B. So,
love it. How'd you feel about the featherweight fight at 145 between KATTAR and Stevens?
I know Jeremy Stevens. I've watched a lot of his career. He's a really good fighter. He has a chin and a half on him. He's a little bit of a shorter guy, if I remember correctly, for that division.
Yep.
So there's a lot of looping punches that come from him, a lot of overhand rights, a lot of things like that. But he's a really good, well-rounded fighter. Obviously, he leans more towards striking. I didn't know much about KATTAR coming in. I've never really seen him fight before. The name didn't jump out at me, but I'll tell you what, I was super impressed. He took a couple shots. He took a couple head strikes that were pretty stiff.
Oh yeah.
And he came right back, and he didn't waver, and he didn't flinch, and then he just ended that fight quick. So
it was a good fight too. Both guys were tough. They were swinging. They were throwing bombs at each other.
Yep. But listen, man, elbows hurt.
Yeah. But I mean, even that elbow is insane. But you saw Stevens really mixing it up too. You saw him getting a nice mix of that head attack and those legs. Mm-hmm. So he was doing a good job mixing up. I think that fight honestly could have gone either way. But then I hate using this term because I don't like the implication, but that was a lucky punch fight. Yeah.
And we kind of said earlier that there really are no lucky punches in the UFC, but it's just the first guy that just happened to land his clean flush punch first. That shot, I agree with you, could have gone either way.
It's whoever pulled the trigger first. It's just a matter of then towards later you saw KATTAR putting together those nice combinations, and what that nice combinations allowed him to do was to push the pace. Second he pushed the pace, then it allowed that opportunity for him to drop that elbow.
Yeah.
Because that was not an elbow, that was a elbow. It was raised from the dark depths of below.
The thing is, man, when you start pushing the pace on a guy, right? A guy's not going to shell up and get in real tight. He's going to start getting a little wild with his hands and want to create that distance because you're pushing at him. And once he starts opening up to create that distance, that's when those elbows come in, and that's when they do the most damage because they're opening up that guard to create that distance. And like you said, that comes from pushing the pace. That comes from throwing combos. That wasn't a one strike elbow.
Oh no.
You know what I mean? So.
Loved that one. So we had KATTAR coming out with a victory on that. Next fight that was on the cards was the Francis Nogueira versus
Rozenstruik.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So that was a heavyweight bout. And that was an awesome one. It was a quick one. I'm gonna let you talk about it.
All right, so this is my thing, okay? Rozenstruik is a better fighter than Francis Ngannou.
And he's coming off he did come off an undefeated record.
Yes, he is a better fighter. He doesn't have Ngannou has blazed a trail through the heavyweight division. I mean, he's knocked out almost everybody. I mean, I think that uppercut on Alistair Overeem is probably
my God. It's like a fire under his fist. That was ridiculous. It was a video game. It was Tekken.
But here's the thing. Ngannou is a very, very easy guy to beat. And Stipe showed that. Mm-hmm. As long as you stay shelled up, as long as you're not backing up straight, and this is a thing that tall guys do a lot, right? when punches start getting thrown, they open up and they show their chin all the time, because with a big, tall guy, they can usually just lean out of the way of a punch, and it works. Well, Ngannou's like 6'5", 6'4", 6'5", something like that, and he has, you know, these long arms, and all he does is just swing for the fences. There's no technique, there's no skill.
There was no technique on that. It was pure power.
Pure power. And this is something that we actually train in the gym all the time, because I'm a guy that comes forward a lot. You know that. I come forward pressure, forward pressure, forward pressure. What do I tell you guys is the number one thing to do with a guy that has forward pressure like that?
Start using your dimensions. Start using your angles.
Pivot out. Pivot out. Just like with basketball. You plant your front foot, you pivot out. Had Rozenstruik pivoted out instead of trying to back up straight and open up his jaw, he wouldn't have gotten knocked out like that.
And those were I wouldn't even know if you'd categorize those as punches rather than flails, because he was just literally taking his 2-ton arms and just throwing it in the air, hoping that he'd catch a punch, and he caught a fish, man.
He caught a punch and a half. But again, how did he knock out Ostroverine? Big looping punches. How did he knock out Rozenstruik? Big looping punches. What happened when he ran into Stipe?
Couldn't do it because it got negated.
Couldn't do it. You know what I mean? So it's like it's a guy that, listen, he's impressive. He's a physical specimen. I'm not taking that away from him. But in terms of being a fighter, he's not a fighter.
I get it.
Not yet, at least. Not yet. I mean, I'm sure that he's progressing. I'm sure that he's working on it. But I mean, the biggest thing I'd say is everybody that's watching this, go back and watch the Francis Ngannou fight and look at his feet as he's moving forward, throwing those punches. He's up on his toes. His hips are square. His hips are coming forward. He has no kinetic energy getting generated from his feet and from his hips. Okay? It's all pure arm strength. And you see that with a lot of guys who are big, jacked dudes, is there's arm strength punching, and they're going to burn themselves out. So with Francis Ngannou, if he doesn't knock you out in the first, you're going to win the fight.
Yeah, because
survive the first round and you'll win the fight. It's almost guaranteed. It's almost guaranteed.
There's that level of technique that's always needed within a fighter, and all we're saying is that Francis Ngannou has to still develop that. And if he does, like, you know, literally, if the dude worked on his technique, he'd be probably one of the greatest heavyweights to ever walk the planet.
I don't see a human being walking on this planet that can beat him. If he develops technique, I don't see it.
Because there isn't. There just straight up isn't.
Because, I mean, he has the athleticism. He has the power. Obviously, he has the power. He has the height. He has the weight. I mean, everything is in his favor. And he hasn't been fighting that long. That's why I give him a lot of
fresh.
He hasn't been fighting that long. It's just his power is just something to it's something to behold. It's crazy. But I will die on this hill. Francis Ngannou is not a good mixed martial artist. He's just an athletic specimen with, like you said, cinder blocks for hands.
Yep.
So that works sometimes, and it worked tonight. So
love it. So our next fight was a fun fight was Henry Cujo versus Dominick Cruz, the championship bantamweight fight. That was for 135 pounds. That was the championship fight. Yep. Dude, I love Triple C, and I like Cruz. So it was. I
was so conflicted in this fight because I hate Cejudo.
Okay.
I will not take away the guy's skill. In my opinion, he never beat Demetrius Johnson. That's flyweight. That's not bantamweight. I'm just saying. He never beat Demetrius Johnson. The guy has skill for days. I won't take that away from him. And I get what he's doing. He's building a persona so that people will tune in and watch him, so that he can get more ratings, so he can get more money. I get it, right? If you even look at the end, he did the same thing we were talking about before, like McGregor does. He went around to Dominick Cruz. He even said, "Dude, I look up to you. You're an idol to me. Thank you so much."
Yep.
And I get it, but like, he just seems so disingenuous with this shtick that he comes up with, this persona that he did, this Triple C nonsense. It just seems so genuine. And it's like, dude, I'm not buying it. Like, just say, like, I'm really good and I'm probably going to beat this guy.
It's hard to buy it from a guy that's, the size of your nephew.
Yes.
I understand where you're coming from. Also, from me being around, dude, I float at like 140. So for me, it's a totally different perception versus for you.
Yeah.
It was a good fight though. You saw Cujo chopping down the legs early.
Mm-hmm. Threw about 25 leg kicks in that fight. Cruz threw 12.
Jeez, man.
I'm telling you, man, leg kicks. I'm telling you, we both said it before, leg kicks. Leg kicks they open up the whole striking universe for you.
Yeah, man, you start low, you end high. And then on top of it, once you start breaking their legs down, they can't throw their full power punches.
Yeah. Yep. I kind of had a little bit of an issue with Dominick Cruz being even in this fight, to be honest. He hasn't fought in 4 years.
Yeah, I was surprised about that as well. I was wondering how he earned a championship bout.
Do you want to hear something else crazy? Look up his record at the UFC, Dominick Cruz. Do you have it?
About to right now.
Yeah, look up his record, his total record, the total number of fights he's had in the UFC. It's going to blow your mind.
I mean, I wouldn't even honestly be too surprised. 22-3. Yeah, man.
No. His UFC record, not his MMA record.
His UFC record is 21-1?
No.
Am I correct? All right. What is it?
5-2. He's had 7 total fights.
Where the hell's he been fighting out of before that? Because Dominick Cruz has been a staple in the sport for years.
He was it wasn't Strike Force. Not WKA. He was WEC. I think maybe WEC.
Okay.
He was one of the promotions before.
You're right. It was WEC, so he was in the World Extreme Cage Fighting Organization.
Yes, and that's where the majority of his wins came from, and he dominated there. The UFC, he only has 7 fights in the UFC. I get you were a bantamweight champion. I get that you ran through Team Alpha Male.
Level of competition's completely different.
Right. I get all that, but that was 4 years ago, and Cody Garbrandt slept you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you beating out Uriah Faber doesn't really mean too much nowadays.
Right. So I just don't know. I don't get why Dominick Cruz was even in this fight. 4 years off. And again, like, I don't know. I've always liked Dominick Cruz as a person. I love him as an announcer and a commentator. His fighting style drives me up. And I love the fact that he got caught with a knee in the face. Because those big, stupid, looping punches where he drops his entire face and he looks down at the ground and he's like, oh, that's my head movement. No, it's not your head movement. You're going to get kneed in the face. And that's what happened, and I love it.
That's exactly what happened. So, and Cruz was looking pretty decent towards the end of round 1. Was looking all right. Yeah, he was looking all right in round, in like the mid round 2. He was putting together like some good combos. But then while they were in the pocket, they like slammed their heads against each other. Cujo had like a little bit of blood time, so they just wiped that up. And then as soon as they re-engaged, as you said, Cruz went and dropped his head low. Yep. And then all Cujo needed to do was bring that knee right up high, right into the face.
Now, one thing I will say that I think was, I don't know, I'm so torn about this, is the stoppage.
Yeah, they say that a lot of people are saying that they stopped that fight a little too early.
Right. So I counted after the knee, which was actually a kick. Cejudo was throwing a kick.
Yeah.
It just so happened because
he hit him with the knee, but
because of Dominick Cruz's stupid head movement, he ate a knee to the face that should have been a kick, and he got dropped. There was 11 unanswered flush strikes to the face and head before it got stopped.
I mean, when you say it like that, it sounds like the ref took too long to stop it.
Right. There was 11 strikes. Now, he keeps saying, like, oh, I was in the process of getting up. He was at no point was he in the process of getting up. What he did was he shimmied over to the side of the cage, and we got one knee up off the mat. One knee, and then it got called. That's not in the process of getting up. He could have just been shelling up and turtling up against the side of the cage while he's getting punches rained down on him.
Yeah.
So I don't think it was an early stoppage. The only thing I'll say, there was 2 seconds left.
I was about to say, but the round was almost over, so I think he was trying to survive the round.
Yeah.
But if it comes down to that, where it's like, well, you're trying to surround the round, but you're not protecting yourself at all times, or you're not being busy and hitting back,
right?
Then, in my personal opinion, the ref pulled the right move.
11 unanswered strikes.
That's not the process of getting up, buddy. That's the process of getting hit.
Right, exactly. And at no point did he cover up. At no point did his hands cover. His palms were flat on the canvas, and he was just eating punches to the face. If I'm seeing that, I thought the ref waited too long, to be honest.
Yeah, no, agreed.
And then, like, a little side note, and this has nothing to do with the fighting and whatnot, I always thought CRUZ was a classy guy. I did not appreciate his comments after the fight in the post-fight press conferences, where he said that the dude smelled like cigarettes and alcohol.
Yeah,
like,
so it's funny.
You're messing with the dude's livelihood now. Like,
the ref actually replied to CRUZ and said, yeah, so after CRUZ wrote that, the ref actually replied and goes, "I'm sorry, I thought I was stopping you from getting CTE. I guess I was wrong."
Dude,
what a rebuttal.
That's a great rebuttal. And I just think that that's poor form, man. That's low class. Like, don't attack the guy. Listen, you can say, I dispute the stoppage all you want. Don't say that the guy came to work drunk.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a little too far, in my opinion. I thought that was classless.
Like, if you really did have a problem with it, instead of going to social media and just exploding or blowing up, talk to your boss, talk to your management, talk to the refs, get the internal committee involved, get an investigation going. Right. Like you want to go for the dude's job, go for the dude's job in the right way.
Right.
Have him take a piss test if he has to, have him take a breathalyzer, whatever the case may be.
And this is the thing why, in my opinion, it's inexcusable, is Dominick Cruz has been part of the media side of UFC for the past 4 years. So it's not like he doesn't know the impact of social media. It's not like he doesn't know the impact of the press conferences. He's commented on this stuff himself, what guys have said on social media, what guys have done in the press conferences. He's commented on that himself. So he knew exactly what he was doing by bringing that up. You can't claim ignorance or anything like that. You were trying to go after the guy's job. And to me, like, why? Because you dropped your head and ate a knee to the face. At the end of the day, it's your fault, bro.
Agreed.
You did the wrong thing. Your defense was it's always been You just have this really weird footwork that nobody could really figure out, and now you ate a knee. Sorry.
Grow up.
Exactly. Exactly. Although I do like him as a commentator, so I hope he goes back to that side of it because I like him better there.
Well, or you might be hearing Henry Cujo commentate since he has now officially retired for now. We'll see how long that lasts.
I would not be surprised to see him go to one.
Yeah, really?
I would not, because one pays their fighters a whole hell of a lot more. First off, One Championships is the largest martial arts promotion in the world. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So they pay their fighters much, much better than the UFC does. One of the bigger draws and the bigger advantages to the UFC is that if you make it in UFC, you get a lot of endorsement deals that you wouldn't get elsewhere. So that's where
it's so well promoted.
Right. That's where the lucrative stuff comes from with the UFC, but they don't really pay their fighters. And CEJUDO, that was a big thing. Is after he won the bantamweight champ and he had both belts, the flyweight and bantamweight, he was like, I want to be paid like a top dog. But I was actually talking to a buddy about this. The little guys just don't draw.
They don't, because that knockout power is not really there, you know? You're not getting that big, flashy, highlighted knockout.
Right. And you know what's crazy is, for the most part, you're going to see much, much more efficient mixed martial arts.
Technical fighting in the smaller guys.
Yeah. You're going to see it with the smaller guys. I mean, as opposed to the bigger guys. You look at some of the greatest pound-for-pound mixed martial artists in the past couple of years. Dillashaw, little guy. Demetrius Johnson, little guy. John Dodson, little guy. Henry Cejudo, little guy. I mean, these little guys are Joe Benavidez.
Yep.
They don't draw. Because, again, like you said, there's no knockout power, and that's what people like to see.
And then the fight game turns extremely cerebral, as you were saying earlier.
Yes.
So
if you don't train, if you don't know what you're looking at, it's boring.
Yeah. Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
What wasn't boring was the championship fight.
That was a good segue.
I'm getting good at these transitions, man.
That was a good transition. That was really good.
But yeah, so we had Justin Gaethje versus Tony Ferguson in the interim championship bout for lightweight at 155.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, so that was a fun one to watch right off the bat. These guys were very busy the whole entire fight. It went the full 5 rounds.
They both have cardio for days.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Tony Ferguson, El Cucuy, that's one of those things he's known for. He's known for slicing people up with his elbows. He's known for having very weird angles and a very hard fighting style to diagnose, and he's known for his cardio. You know, I mean, they tell stories famously where he trains for 6 hours straight with no water breaks.
Not even surprised. And then he's just tough as they come, man.
I like, obviously you knew he was a tough guy and whatnot. Some of the strikes that he was just eating flush to the face, and
Gaethje's got dynamite in his fists, man.
Oh my God,
he's not throwing light punches.
He knocks people straight out like cold.
Mm-hmm.
And Ferguson was just eating these strikes, but not even reacting. Like, there was no reaction. It wasn't even like a stumble or, his eyes rolling back or anything like that. He just got cracked in the mouth and then came right back. It was so impressive to watch. So
it was like watching a tuning fork that's in the ground, and all the energy after you hit it disperses back into the ground.
Yeah.
You saw in the beginning of the fight, Tony was he was a little busier than Gaethje in the beginning, I would say, the first round. But man, after a while, you saw Justin Gaethje with great head movement, and then you also saw that his counter fighting. And this is another thing that I saw very predominant within a lot of these fights on this card, was the counter punching was on point, and that's kind of what led people to have those big cuts.
Gaethje put on a clinic of counter. A absolute clinic of counter striking, and not only counter striking, but if you'll notice, most people throw combos in 2s, maybe 3s.
Oh, he was throwing 8-punch combos,
and he's counter punching with 6, 7, 8-punch combos. If you notice, if you go back and watch, almost every time it was that last strike is what landed on the counter punching, and it was almost like that was the punch you didn't expect to come. 1, 2, 3, 4, you think it's done, and then he comes out of nowhere with 5 and catches you. But the counter punching was absolutely sublime, and a clinic in counter punching.
And his right hand was monstrous. But even Tony was fighting very well. Right around round 2, right towards the end of round 2, Tony,
I thought it was over.
Came with this beautiful uppercut and caught Justin Gaethje clean, put him right on his back, and I believe he was saved by the bell.
100%.
Yep.
I think so. Now, I don't think he was out.
No.
But I definitely could have seen a like a Cejudo CRUZ type of.
Would have been a TKO.
Yeah, where he just wouldn't have been able to. Because listen, once Tony Ferguson jumps on you, and God forbid takes your back, that fight's pretty much over. I don't think Justin Gaethje has the jiu-jitsu acumen that Tony Ferguson does. So once that fight hit the ground, if Cucuy was able to get his back, I think that fight would have been done.
Classic save by the bell, and classic waiting too long for your big punches, man. Like,
I mean, that was a perfectly timed.
Yeah, it was good timing, absolutely.
Kind of going back to what we said, it's not lucky, but that lucky punch, you know what I mean? It just happened to land so clean and perfectly. And it was actually Gaethje was throwing his own uppercut at that same time. So it almost exposed his chin a little bit because he was coming up with his own.
And Tony sees the opportunity.
Yeah, big time.
He sees that opportunity. I mean, third round was still looking pretty good. That's when you kind of saw that cut start to develop under Tony's eye. And that blood starts spurting out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in round 3 is when you really start seeing Gaethje feel a lot more comfortable, start ripping it a lot more, and accurately landing a lot of his strikes. So his right hand, just the accuracy.
That's the big thing, was the accuracy. And did you notice the biggest change between round 2 and round 3? Like the pivotal thing, in my opinion, was Justin Gaethje's corner. So right between round 2 and round 3, when like you were 100% spot on. The accuracy was there, and you really saw Gaethje start to pull away from Ferguson in that third round. His corner was like, dude, take 10% off of your punches and just land them stiff. And you saw Gaethje listen. He, instead of swinging for the fences with these big wild strikes at the end of round 2, which is how he got caught, right? He's loading up this big, massive uppercut without setting it up. Now he pulls back. He's not pressing as hard. He's not attacking as hard. And he's just counter punching. He's not trying to knock Kukui out. He just wants to make sure he lands a nice stiff punch. And that's what he was doing. And it was, I mean, a perfect game plan. Perfect game plan. So kudos to his corner for identifying that, and kudos to Gaethje for listening.
Yeah. Even between the 4th and the 5th round, when you saw Gaethje getting really comfortable, his corner had to bring him back to earth and be like, "Hey, man, listen, you've been in this situation where you've been comfortable before, and you've been stopped." And Gaethje was like, "Nah, I've been stopped twice." Exactly.
Yep. Yeah.
So, good corner work right there. And I know that you, on a personal level, can appreciate that because you have cornered many fighters over the years. So
yeah. It's one of those things where like you kind of have tunnel vision when you're fighting, and it's kind of hard to see the big picture. You know what you want to do. You kind of know what this guy's doing to you, but you don't have that, eagle eye view of what's really happening in the fight and the little nuanced things. When we're sitting in the corner, we're doing nothing but watching the other guy. You know what I mean? We're not really watching. You're not really watching your fighter. You're watching the other guy. There's always 2 cornermen. There's your main corner and there's your second corner. And, you kind of divide up amongst yourselves who you're going to watch. And you want to make sure that you're watching the opponent and you're watching what he does. You're watching how he's setting things up and how he's moving. People are creatures of habit. And if something's working, they're going to keep going back to the well. So kudos to the corner. I thought that the corner performance for Gaethje was the best of the night for all of the corners. And I think, in my opinion, it was definitely the biggest turning point, the biggest linchpin to that victory for Justin Gaethje was his corner work.
Huge. Absolutely huge. And then taking it right into the 5th round, you saw that Gaethje was hitting all his combos really well. Mm-hmm. You start seeing that big separation between the two where, like, Tony's actually getting beat up at this point.
Oh, big time.
He's getting beat up.
Yeah, and it comes back to the efficiency, like you said. I mean, Justin Gaethje's total strikes, he threw 197 total strikes. He landed 143 of them.
Jeez, man.
Okay.
So he landed about 75% of his strikes.
Absolutely. Okay. And by the way, 30 of those strikes were leg kicks.
Oh, my God.
Okay? Do you know how many leg kicks he threw? 30. He landed all of his leg kicks. 100% efficiency in his leg kicks.
Get out of here.
Yep. As opposed to Tony, we all know Tony's a volume guy. He has the gas tank for it. He threw 296 total strikes.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
He landed 136 of them. So that efficiency means something, And again, when we're training in the gym together, and I tell you guys, Your strikes have to have a purpose. What are you throwing this for? Why are you throwing this jab? Why are you throwing this cross? Why are you throwing that leg kick? Why are you hitting that teeth? Why? And that's the cerebral aspect of it, is to upgrade that efficiency. And maybe I don't want to knock you out with this jab, but maybe I want to get your hands up so I can drill you in the liver, you know?
Shout out to Jaisu Gym in Jersey. Shout out to Coach Miguel and all of the guys, Coach Corey, and all the guys that are training there every day and putting in that real hard work and grind. We see y'all.
Yep, big time. Big time. Can't wait to get back to the gym.
Yeah, for sure, man. So yeah, Tony was getting beat up. He got stunned with the jab, and the fight has to end in TKO because you kind of see how he's turning and he's not really exactly about to defend himself. I think the ref did a good job on that stoppage. Even if
that's when I think that's when his orbital bone broke. I think that's when they broke his eye socket.
Oh, well then, wonderful job, Herb Dean. Herb Dean's one of the best to do it, man. One of my favorite refs.
The best. Herb Dean is
Classic.
The absolute best. But yeah, dude, that nice stiff jab. And you see, I mean, it looked like a chunk of flesh came off of Tony's face, the amount of thick blood that came out. And it was Tony's reaction to it is what makes me think that was the strike that did it, because he was eating just, I mean, Lysol cans to the face. I mean, he was just getting bricked. No reaction. None. And then that little stiff jab came in and suddenly starts shaking his head. He starts putting, you know.
That was the first time that you really saw that too.
And he almost turned away from the fight, and he put himself in a really, really bad position. I get it, man. I'm stubborn. I don't ever want somebody to like you finish me. If we're fighting, you're gonna finish me. Nobody's gonna come in and be like, all right, he's had enough. No, you're not gonna embarrass me that way. I get it, but at the same time, man, like, you know, that was a good stop.
Yeah, agreed.
That was a solid stop.
Speaking of earlier, as you said it to CRUZ, speaking of like just classless wins, I also was not a big fan of seeing Gaethje walk up to Tony Ferguson and being like, bro, let me just show you a little bit of love. And I think Gaethje said it best, being an a-hole won't get you anywhere in life.
Yeah. I will say, though, you kind of saw that that Tony, after he regained his composure and
heat of emotions.
Yeah. Because listen, I mean, think about it from Tony Ferguson's mentality, right? He's the interim lightweight champion. How many times has this fight with Khabib been canceled? What, 5 times?
Already? Yeah, like it's never gonna happen now. Right. Now that he lost this, it especially won't happen.
Fighting Justin Gaethje absolutely did not. It was a lose-lose.
It was going to do nothing for his career. Agreed.
It was going to do nothing for him. It was all the chips were in Justin Gaethje's pot with this fight. Justin Gaethje was ranked fourth.
Yeah, the fourth contender.
Fourth in division. And Ferguson, because he's that guy, said, I'll fight anybody, anytime, anywhere. And I'm so torn on this mentality, because on one hand, I love it because I fight. I will fight anytime, anywhere, but I also don't do it for a living. It's not my business. And I think that's something that like really hurt Cowboy Cerrone in his career, was him saying he'll fight anybody, anytime, anywhere. And he didn't pick his fights a little bit better.
And he had to step up to that. Yeah.
I feel like if Cowboy picked his fights a little bit better, he could have been a belt holder. In my opinion, he's the greatest UFC fighter to never win a championship.
Okay.
And you see now that this Tony Ferguson thing is a perfect example of looking at the business side of fighting, why you kind of need to pick your fights. And because now look at him, he's tumbled back down.
Yep. And you only have so much tread on the tires too, guys. Like you can honestly really only deal with certain amount of battle damage in your whole entire life. Yeah. So if you can do 30 fights, which is a lot of fights, guys, but if you can do 30 fights and still be healthy, you're not going to be as good as you were in your first 10 to 15 fights as you are going to be on the back end of that, because you're hurt.
Mike Bisping said it the best. Nobody ever gets better after a fight.
Agreed. And he lost an eye.
Yeah. Nobody ever gets better after a fight. You know, every fight you leave a little bit still in the mat, every fight. And your first couple fights doesn't feel like a lot, but compound that over time, over damage, and Tony took a lot of damage.
A lot.
He took
A lot. And inhuman amount. Like,
yeah.
there's you always see Tony bloodied up though, and that's why he's the boogeyman, because he's not only just bloodied up, he's bloodied up, smiling, licking it, and then like trying to chase you down to kill you.
Yeah, you know, and he's always slicing everybody up, man, with those elbows. And I don't know, it's just it didn't look like the Tony Ferguson that I'm used to seeing in the UFC, and I don't know if maybe that's because he was preparing for Khabib, and maybe he worked on his ground game a lot more. And then, 14-day notice, here comes Justin Gaethje, who is just I'm going to plant my feet in the middle of the ring, and I'm going to eat everything you have, and I'm going to give you everything I have, and one of us is going to fall down. That's how Justin Gaethje fights. And so I don't know what it was, but, I mean, when I tell you Justin Gaethje fought the perfect fight. Like, it was
absolutely. I didn't have him losing a round.
No.
I didn't have him losing one round.
The only thing you could say was a misstep was when he ate that uppercut.
Yep, exactly.
So it was a 99% perfect fight.
Even with the knockdown, I still have him winning that round.
Yeah, big time. Big time.
That was dope. Real quick question before we start wrapping up. And this is a fun one. Who do you think is the best leg kicker in the UFC? Because that was such a predominant theme of this card.
Best leg kicker in the UFC. It's all right. So it's like kind of like a loaded question for me, because I think it's Cowboy because I love his Muay Thai.
Okay.
But I also like John Jones.
Okay.
And the different kind of ways he attacks the leg. He kind of does that front kick to the knee to keep your distance. He does that. I mean, it's either Cowboy or Edson Barboza for me.
Okay. I have mine as Dustin Poirier.
Justin Poirier.
There you go. Diamond.
Yeah.
Bro, when I would see like literally clips of people afterwards with their legs just devastated. I don't know, man.
Chewed up. I mean, you've seen Edson Barboza fights, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Bro, his leg kicks are crazy.
His kicks, period, are crazy.
Crazy. I mean, I love Cowboy. Edson Barboza is in there. Like I said, I like John Jones, not necessarily for the power and for the damage, but the way he uses those kicks to control the tempo of the fight, keep his opponent exactly where he wants to keep his opponent. And you have to worry about those leg kicks, man. And if you think about it, that leg kick was how he ended the last DC fight.
Exactly.
He went to throw that low leg kick. DC went to do something against it, kind of dropped his jaw a little bit. Jones came up and cracked him in the face, and that's all she wrote. So I like how Jones sets it up with his leg kicks. So
I can't wait till he starts coming back in the cage.
He got busted again for what? Was it another DUI or something?
He's the greatest athlete to ever constantly shoot himself in the foot.
Oh my God, dude! He's
his own worst enemy, man. It's not DC. It's literally he's his own worst enemy.
He is a guy. So remember we were saying before how Francis Ngannou has everything but the technique, and if he found the technique, he'd be unbeatable.
It's like the opposite for this guy.
That's right. That's John Jones has great technique, all the talent in the world. It's just he can't get his head in the back.
No, not at all.
It sucks.
Well, UFC 249 was definitely a really great one. It was wonderfully needed in time during this whole pandemic that we are currently living in. So thank God there are sports. I'm excited for UFC 250 now, which will be coming in on June 6th. So I think that's going to be a good one. I'm waiting for all those cards to get stacked up. Dan and myself will be doing another review after UFC 250, give you guys a little bit more insight on what's going on in these fighters' worlds. And yeah, I just want to say thanks, man. Yo, thanks for coming on board today and talking with us and our viewers and giving us that insight of just what's going on in that fight world.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me on. Hopefully everybody enjoyed it. And on Wednesday is UFC Fight Night with one of my favorite fighters, Anthony Smith, fighting Glover Teixeira. So make sure you tune in and watch that one because Anthony Smith is a phenomenal fighter. So that should be a really good fight.
And you don't break into that man's house.
Do not break into that man's house.
Because he will beat you up, which he just did recently.
That is a crazy story, man. That is a crazy story. But yeah, I think that guy's a great fighter. I love watching him fight. I think he's eventually going to be the lightweight champion in the UFC. Or the light heavyweight champion, I should say, in the UFC.
Love it. Well, once again, guys, thanks for tuning in with us. If you like our content, make sure you hit that like button. Whichever fight you thought was your favorite fight or the best fight, make sure you pop that in the comments below. I want to hear what you guys have to say. If you agree or disagree with anything that we have to say, put it in the comments. And if you like the videos that we're putting out, please hit that subscribe button for more content like this coming your way. And stay blessed, everyone.